Rev up your engines! Ford expects to lose half of their second quarter production because of the chip shortage, because now it's worse than it was. There was a fire in a factory in Japan where they get a bunch of the chips, so now that's down too. Well, here's a lesson to be learned, okay? Ford, you're in the United States, right? You're building these trucks. You make a lot of money on it. Why on earth does your chip supply come from halfway around the world in Japan? There aren't places here you can get them made? Big mistake. Expanding yourself out like that. You leave yourself wide open. They're assuming they're going to lose $2.5 billion on this deal. It's a lot of money. Maybe they should rethink their supply chain, because they said they're going to lose about 50% of their second quarter production. Now Ford's saying that they're losing a lot of it now because of a fire in their chip supply place in Japan. So, you know, they're not blaming it on coronavirus, right? Well, still, they are dependent upon something on the other side of the planet. You think you could have maybe a backup plan? Let's see. You got this big corporation. Shouldn't you have a few backup plans? You know, I got backup plans for everything I do. You think a big corporation, of course, they are dead from the neck up, so who knows about that. Oh, look, if we make them here, we'll save 1.2 cents per car made. Oh, yeah, and then look what happens. You lose $2.5 billion when you can't get the supplies anymore. And the interesting thing is, these chips come from Japan, right? So they supply other people too. Yeah, you don't see Toyota having a problem with it, right? They're in Japan. Are they having a problem with it? No, because they planned ahead. Obviously, had backup plans too, where Ford's thinking, oh, we'll just buy these, no problem. We'll get these chips, we're saving money, we're getting them from Japan, yada, yada. And now, oof, will they learn? Who knows? Sometimes corporations don't learn anything. They just keep muddling along like a headless giant. But hopefully they'll learn from this. Ford vows to maintain lower vehicle inventories, assisting its profit per vehicle. What a stupid idea. So what's he doing? He's lowering the cars that are there so they can sell them at a higher price. So in other words, he's charging his customers more for vehicles because he can't build them correctly because their supply chain is messed up. Yeah, screw over your own customers to make more money. In the long run, this is why I'm telling people, do a little history. The Japanese, their corporate strategy is to get people loyal. Sell them a good product, a good price. Here it's like, screw over your people, make more money as much as you can, and if you can't build as many, charge more money for them. I think they've lost their noodles. Now Toyota's trying out something that I said, hey, I'm sure people are going to do it. They now have a Toyota Corolla they're testing out with hydrogen-fueled combustion engine. Now everybody's got the rave on for hydrogen fuel cells, where the hydrogen is put into a cell and it creates electricity and has nothing but water vapor and a little heat come out. Well, this is actually running the cars on hydrogen. If you don't know, cars can run perfectly fine on hydrogen. The car you're driving today can be relatively easily converted to run on hydrogen. Got to put a hydrogen tank on and a different fuel system to feed the engine, but it's not all that complicated. Such as people run cars on, you know, propane and liquefied natural gas, where they have it in a tank and then it sprays to a gas. They work perfectly fine. They've done that for decades. So, as old Scotty said, if they do think, okay, we're going to not pollute in the long run and have hydrogen fuel cell cars, in the meantime, they can have a transition. The cars that just have regular internal combustion engines can run on hydrogen. So if you got a hydrogen gas station, you can use it for all the cars. Not just like an electric car, you can plug it in. It's no good for your gasoline or diesel engine. You got to have fuel for it. But convert them to hydrogen. If they have hydrogen stations, you could fill up the hydrogen fuel cars with hydrogen, or you can fill up the tank on your regular car that can be converted to run on hydrogen. And Toyota's no fool. They're looking into that. It only makes sense. Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Turns out that Mike Manley, who was the last CEO of Fiat Chrysler, since Fiat Chrysler got bought by Peugeot and they're called Stellantis now. He's the last CEO, and in 2020, his compensation was $14 million. Okay, you got a failing company, bought out by one company and then by another company, yet the CEO gets $14 million. Our society's gone mad. That's just too much. They made bad decision after bad decision, and the guy walks off with $14 million from Fiat Chrysler for his salary for 2020. That really amazes me, what these corporate guys do, you know? They're in the boardrooms handing money out to each other for doing nothing. I mean, I met guys that were on the board of directors of various companies. And some of them would get $350,000, $400,000 a year for going to a couple meetings a year, and they'd be on a bunch of different boards, not just one company, a bunch, just all sharing the wealth amongst themselves. And it doesn't seem to matter if the company's going down the toilet. Back in the day, I lived across the street from a big old insurance company tower in Houston, and they got bailed out by the American public. And yet, these guys that were retiring from that company, they had golden parachutes of $5–10 million, but our taxpayer dollars were bailing the company out. These guys are getting paid a lot of money for running crappy companies. The companies aren't doing that good, but they still get paid a lot themselves. Something's amiss here. Well, here we got the legislatures out again. Remember that fire in Spring, Texas with the Tesla? Well, now they're talking about making a new bill in Congress that would mandate a car monitoring system in all cars that are made in the future, not just the self-driving ones. So they're monitoring the driver to see what's happening, you know, to warn them if they're falling asleep or to call emergency if they crash. Senator Amy Klobuchar is behind it in the Senate. There's a bill that modern cars will have to have something that monitors the driver all the time. Now, of course, you can imagine the loss of privacy laws and what people are going to think about that they're being filmed the whole time, seeing what they're doing, going down the road, what they're looking at, what they're doing. Well, you made a mistake. You know, you were looking over there, and then the car came from the other side. You weren't watching. You know, I mean, I do have to say, on the other hand, you get in a car, right? You're on a public road. It should be safe for everybody. And privacy, well, you know, if you kill somebody because you made a mistake, you're the one that's responsible for it. And if a camera shows you are, well, hey, that's the way the world goes, you know? Who will hack into it and see where you are, where you're driving, you know? And then the thieves are watching it, hacking, and say, oh, look, he's in Minnesota. Let's rob his house in Detroit now. He's not home. Who knows? But for these autonomous cars that they're trying to get them to drive themselves, I kind of agree. I can't see putting it in all cars. But in ones that are autonomous, they should have a thing where they watch them so then they can see, hey, the guy's not at the wheel. He's not. They say that, oh, well, while you're using the system, you're still supposed to be holding on to the wheel. Well, look at the people that aren't. They can't crash us, right? Well, that way, they'd show whether they're on the wheel or not, and you would know. Of course, I mean, people are pretty smart these days. Somebody could probably hook something up to the camera to make a feedback to look like there's a person sitting there driving the car, when in fact there wasn't. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could be done. But if they're going to have at least semi-autonomous driving, maybe it's not a bad idea to have them monitored the whole time, so they won't have this thing where Tesla says, well, it wasn't a self-driving car. They were actually driving the car. Well, the camera would show if it was or wasn't. So maybe that's not such a bad idea. Those expensive cars that have the ability to drive themselves, force them to have a monitor on it so nobody can argue about whether somebody was legally behind the wheel or they were sleeping in the back seat. Carlos2468 says, my Honda Accord vibrates. I got a concern. I got an '09 Honda Accord Coupe. It's amazing, runs like a dream. It's got 128,000 miles, no engine codes, no code stored. I changed the spark plugs. It vibrates when it's in gear. A mechanic changed 3 motor mounts. I got it back, it was better, but it still shakes. Help. There's a lot of reasons they can vibrate. Now, the first thing you want to do, check for vacuum leaks. I got video, finding engine vacuum leaks with a cigar, try that. Second thing is, clean the throttle and the mass airflow sensor. I got another video called Make Your Car Run Better with a Little Spray Cleaner. Watch that, do the cleaning. That could help it. Now, if it doesn't, here's something you can try. And if it works, just live with it. You vibrate when you're at a stop, right? Put the car into neutral. If it stops vibrating, the problem is your torque converter inside your automatic transmission is a little bit worn. When you put it in drive, the torque converter gets stressed. If it's not perfect, your car will shake only at idle. And then if you put it neutral, then you're not connecting it to the transmission anymore and it stops shaking. It's your torque converter. You got to pull the transmission off, replace the torque converter, costs you thousands of dollars. It isn't going to hurt anything. My 94 Celica has done that since ever I bought it. It's got 240,000 miles on it. And you don't want it to shake. You put it in neutral when you're sitting at a stoplight. It doesn't shake at all. Put it in drive, it shakes, and it's been that way for 10 years. And I'm not going to put a torque converter in because it's stupid. It works perfectly fine otherwise. But try my cleaning stuff first. A lot of times it'll fix it. Well, this pandemic has made people do crazy things. It's not just in the United States, in England too. There's an Englishman, Guy Martin. He's trying to set the world motorcycle speed record, and he got a turbine engine from a British military helicopter that has 1,200 horsepower, and he wants to set the land speed record on 2 wheels and go over 400 miles an hour. Now, they call it bikes. Basically, it looks like a rocket that's been tilted down and 2 wheels put on it. You're not going to be cruising around town in this thing. The current record is only 376 miles an hour. He wants to set it at 400. Now, they're not going to have the body finished till this year, so it's next year they assume that they're going to try this out. And of course, they're always looking for sponsor money. It costs a lot of money to build these things, to go that fast. And I really would not call it a motorcycle. Like I said, it's like a rocket put on the side. It's got a turbine engine in it. You don't see too many motorcycles that have turbine engines other than the one that Jay Leno's got that those crazy Louisiana guys made with the helicopter turbine engine on it. With all the time people have on their hand, now there's an Englishman making a motorcycle that's trying to go 400 miles an hour with a helicopter engine in it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.